Hello, my name is Pooja Kudeshia. I am a faculty at Jagannath University, Jaipur at Faculty of Management Studies, and I am here to give you an overview of the topic business environment. A very pertaining topic actually, many a times as management graduates we are often asked as to, oh, you are a graduate in business management. What is business in the first place? A very perplexing question actually. What do we mean by business? Very often when we try to answer these questions about what is business, many of our students, they come up with this concept that business is a brand, it is a building, it is a set of buildings, it is an idea, it is an organization, it is comprises of people, employees, customers, suppliers, competitors. What is business? Many a times one fails to actually explain precisely what is business. If you really understand the word business, the word business derives from itself from its mother field, which is economics. And economics deals with production and consumption of goods and services. That means business too deals with production and consumption of goods and services. So that means, what is business? Then, is it all about an organization? If at all it is an organization, then the organization is actually dealing with production and consumption of goods and services. So it is the organization. But then what is business? Organization is a company. Organization is a group of people working towards a common goal. That is what we all learned. But then what is business? As it derives from its mother field, economics, business is an economic activity. Why do we say it's an economic activity? Because it deals with transactions. Transactions dealing with production and consumption of goods and services. That means any organization which is involved in this activity of production of goods, production of services, and making sure that those goods and services are reaching out to its either the end customers or intermediate customers, that is a business. So that means, how do we explain it? For example, let us take the example, very common example of Tata Motors. Tata Motors is involved in the production and manufacturing of automobiles. It manufactures trucks, buses, cars, SUVs. You all have visited Tata Motors showroom, right? Now, when we are actually visiting this showroom, have we actually questioned ourselves, is Tata an organization or a business? Tata is involved in the production and consumption of what? Of automobiles. It is manufacturing trucks and it is selling it to the end customers. For what? For transactions based on pure currency. So that means it is an economic activity. It is based on transactions, sale transactions. So these transactions are happening in what kind of setup? Transactions don't happen individually, right? I alone cannot be doing transaction with myself. I need people, at least one person. So the moment this activity, this process of generating and distribution of transactions amongst people, then this activity not only is an economic activity, it becomes a social activity. You need people around to actually perform business. So business is always done in markets. How do we define markets? What is a market? We all go to a market, right? We go and purchase, our grocery in a nearby market. Is that a market? No. From a strategic manager's perspective, that is not a market. From an economics perspective, yes, it is a market. But when we are talking about from a perspective of a strategic manager, that market that we consider as a place where the transactions will be generated is nothing but a collection of buyers. Place where the buyers are living in close proximity to each other. And why do we consider it as a market? Obviously, the cost of marketing goods to these customers is less as compared to customers who are spread out widely, diversely. So that market becomes is of strategic importance to us. And when that market becomes of strategic importance to strategic managers like us, it becomes very important to understand that are we alone in this market? No. We are not alone in this market. Why? Because there are many companies like us who are already operating in this market, who are already into this performance of economic activity called business. Why? What is the main objective of doing business? The main objective very often happens to be profitability. But is it always profitability? No. It is not always profitability. It is sales turnover. It can be definitely cost optimization. It can be definitely customer satisfaction. It can be community service, like organizations like Akshay Patra. They are not into profit generation. They are into community service. It is another thing that they are also generating profit. So that is also a business. So is business all about production and consumption of physical goods? No. Business is an economic activity performed in a social setup. So that means that this process of generating transactions can happen not only through sale and production of physical goods, it can also happen through sale and production of services like education, like hospital, like healthcare, like there are many services like film production and many so. We are all consumers of these kind of services. And there are many firms operating in this field. Why? Because they have this ultimate goal of either generating profit, increasing sales revenue, optimizing cost, etc., etc. So when a company is into or has formulated this kind of goal, so that means that company is actually not the only person operating in that market. Why is that so? Because the consumer needs variety of choices. And he or she is never satisfied with one. Take yourself as an example. Are we satisfied with one brand of chips packet? No. Today if it is Lay's, tomorrow it is Uncle Chips, third day it is something else. So the consumer drives this competition. And this competition, in order to win this competition, it is very important for the firm to understand the kind of environment it is operating in. So that means what? That means environment. What is that environment? Environment is nothing but the set of factors factors influencing its strategic decisions. Remember, these factors are not any factors. These are those factors which will affect its strategic decision. So let us understand what is strategic decision. Any decision for that matter, which has an impact on the profitability of the firm, on the sustainability of the firm, is a strategic decision. Decisions pertaining to sales, decisions pertaining to profit maximization, decisions pertaining to cost minimization. These are all strategic decisions. So factors which influence these kind of decisions are comprising, or the ones who comprise of the environment of a business. And therefore, for strategic managers like you and me, it is very important for us to understand the kind of factors which are going to have an impact on our profitability, the kind of factors which are going to have an impact on our sustainability. How do we classify these factors? Basically, we are saying that there are two types of environment. One, internal environment and external environment. What do we mean by that? We just now said that the company is operating in a market comprising of buyers. So it is about external environment. Where is the internal environment coming into play? Take a very small example. Say, for example, a boxer wants to land into a championship. Do you think that the boxer's training, his equipment, is alone going to sustain him, or will be the key factor for him to win that match? Honestly, no. It is not that factor only. It is about his mental strength, about his physical stamina that will sustain him through the match. And that is one of the most important factors which will lead to a competitive edge in that particular match. Same is the case for any organization. For any business, any organization performing a business needs to ensure that it is strong internally. So therefore, internal factors also play a key role in determining its success in that particular economic activity. Now, when we talk about internal environment, what are these? What are the components of an internal environment? Majorly, it is about leadership. The people who are at the helm of the affairs, people who are at the top management, who are the key decision makers. They are the strategic decision makers. They are the people who can foresee what is going to come, or they are required to foresee what is going to come. Along with this, the management, the policies, the procedures which are followed in a company, these all encompass to make an organization either flexible, adaptable, or it can be rigid, and it can also not be able to sustain in a competitive environment. For example, a branch manager wants permission to actually file for a price drop just because he foresees that he'll be able to fetch a huge order from LIC, Life Insurance Corporation of India. Now the price drop on, say for example, the LIC wants printers. If had it been a small startup or a small company, the organization structure would be such that the branch manager would hardly have to actually raise his concern or raise his application to multiple levels. It might be a GM and then a CEO who would actually approve it, and finally the price drop can be therefore announced. That is for a small company. But what about large companies? They have a hierarchy, and this hierarchy creates rigidness. It creates a hindrance towards adaptability to competitive situations. And therefore, the branch manager is likely to lose out on the order had he been operating in a large organization as compared to a small organization. So internal environment plays a very key role on the strategic decisions relating to profitability, sustainability, sales turnover, cost optimization. The next is the external environment. We've already talked about it. Now let us understand what are the factors which influence this external environment. Primarily, there are 6 factors which actually influence the decision making. 1, political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. Now, why are we classifying these factors into these boxes as such? Because each factor has its own dynamics. Each factor has its own ways to influence the strategic decision-making process. Let's take the first factor, political. The type of government which is there in a particular market, whether it is a monarchy, autocracy, dictatorship, democracy, will influence the policies of any business. If it is an autocratic rule, it is a dictatorship rule, it is highly likely that the business is not going to generate profit because the dictator is likely to usurp the whole of the profits from that particular business. Conversely, had it been a democratic setup, like for example we have it in India, it is going to be a very different story, but not very far. Politics does influence the business decisions. Depending on the kind of ideology of the ruling party, it is highly likely that the business is either going to sustain or is likely to face difficulties. For example, pre-liberalization India, we had a policy where we said that we are not going to allow FDI. We are not going to allow foreign direct investment. And therefore, many of the foreign firms actually wound up their operations and they went off. Leading to what? Leading to a country facing a situation of forex crisis. But ever since liberalization happened, ever since India reaped the benefits of liberalization, you would see that there is an increased welcoming of the FDIs by the prevailing governments. Even for that matter, in case of retail sector, politics has influenced a lot. Politics made sure that retail sector initially only allowed FDI up to 49% only. It is only recently that they realized that the smaller retailers are not going to lose out if 100% FDI is allowed in retail sector. Leading to what? Leading to foreign brands now setting up their stores in India. Second aspect, economic. Amount of income that a particular market, the buyers have, the amount of savings that they have is going to influence their expenditure on your brand. If they don't have income, if there is high rate of unemployment, people are not going to spend. And if they're not going to spend, where is the business going to sustain? So as strategic managers, it is very important for us to note the rate of growth of economy, the rate of inflation, because that will decide how much money is going into the pockets of the consumer and the kind of product they are going to afford. If they are going to have high purchase power, they are going to afford higher brands, quality brands. But if they're going to have less amount of money, they're going to be price sensitive. And therefore, the product strategy of strategic managers will have to be tweaked towards sachet packs, towards packs which are economic in nature. Third, social. A very pertaining factor. A factor which actually sounds a death knell to many of the businesses. Social factors, what do we mean by that? It actually comprises of the values, the beliefs, the norms, the religious, the rituals that a particular collection of buyers follow. And these values, norms, beliefs, rituals influence their purchasing propensity. For example, in India, Diwali is a very big festival. The time around Diwali and Navratra, you will see that there is a heavy amount of shopping which is done by the end consumers. Why? Because they are influenced by this. Conversely, there is also a period in the Hindu calendar which is known as Shraddh. And you would see that even if the brands were to announce a number of discounts, many of the customers would actually avoid purchase during that period. Why? Because it is considered inauspicious. And which is that factor which is actually leading them to think that it is inauspicious? It is the social factor. Next is the technological factor. Today we are heavily influenced by technology. It isn't yesteryears that we were actually operating on 2G and 3G. Today we are not even happy with 4G. We have 5G, and 5G is also not satisfying us, so we are looking forward to not 6G but 8G. Our data consumption has increased. And with this data consumption, the consumers are increasingly getting exposed to foreign media, foreign brands, foreign fan waves. BTS never had a footprint before 2G. Today, every teenager knows the BTS brand by name, the singers who are there in that particular group, their names, their fantasies and what not. Why? Because of technology. Today, nothing is actually spared from this field. If a business does not evolve, upgrade according to the change in technology, many a times they are likely to lose out. You will see it for yourself that many a times when you are going for shopping, you first go for web grooming, which is visiting the website and then going to the showroom. So any brand which is not available on internet is highly likely to lose out. Next is the legal. The legal factor is one of the deadliest factor which influences the business. Legal factors usually crop up at times where the business does not want. Classic case, in Delhi, first it was announced that all the autos will operate on CNG. See, all the auto drivers actually shifted to CNG. And then it was announced that the amount of pollution levels have increased, so now the autos have to shift to battery. Why? Because there is a law. And if the autos don't do that, they were likely to face a penalty. They were likely to go out of business. Similarly, there was this another announcement which happened around 2 years back, which said that now all the automobiles which are going to be sold in India are going to be of Bharat Standard 6 norms. So all the automobiles which were actually in the factory, all the in the inventory, in the warehouse, which were of BS5 norms, were actually rendered useless. So law plays a very important role. Last is the environmental. Today we are living in a world where there's a high degree of pollution. And this amount of pollution is all the more getting increasing day by day. Emission of greenhouse gases is influencing many of the decision making. So if the product is not eco-friendly, if your service is not eco-friendly, then the consumer is likely to actually ward off, or they are not going to choose your product, thereby affecting your profitability. Today, we have seen that the business, which is an economic activity, is influenced both by internal factors as well as external factors. In the next lecture, we will discuss in detail on all these factors. Thank you.